What's happening? I got a special Power Talks today. I'm going to tag this thing here. I know I don't usually do the Power Talks on Thursday, but I got somebody special that, of course, we have to bring her in due to her scheduling. I gotta adjust and adapt because sometimes you gotta just make sure you're there when people are available. And I'm just tagging this right now, everybody. So just bear with me, because I'm not that smart. Cindy. Anyway, today I have Cindy Eckert coming on, and I'm going to run down who she is in the case that you haven't seen her on any amazing magazine covers such as Forbes or anything like that. Let's see. All right, now I gotta pin it. Trying to pin this thing. Bang! Pinned it. All right. Oh, do you see? See, I got that from. I can't lie. I got that from Kevin O'Leary. A tip from him. He throws that up in the background, and I said, you know what? That looks pretty good. So I threw that up. So my computer. So when it goes black, give me a second. I'll reset it because I'm the producer right now and all that good stuff. So anyway, what's up, everybody? The Magnus Mindset. What's going on? Thank you for loving my post this morning. All right. So I see Cindy's here, and I'm going to be bringing her on right now. Hope everybody is ready to rock with a good friend of mine and somebody that I get inspired by. There she goes. Cindy's coming in. We're waiting on Cindy. Oh, I got but man. All right. Waiting on Cindy. Cindy's probably working.
Yes.
Hey, Cindy, how you
Hey.
doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I am good. I'm good. Dealing with the baby running around screaming because she has anxiety and
Oh,
all
but
that kind of
her
stuff.
but her moves, man, her boxing moves
Oh
with
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
pink gloves on.
Yeah, we're working on that. Where are you? You're
Uh,
home, I'm sure.
I'm home. Yep.
Staying safe.
Everybody's on lockdown.
All right. Well, good. I'm gonna get right into it because I want to. First of all, I mean, if I read your bio, it's gonna take too long. But I'm just gonna read some points of it that so people can know a little bit about your background info, and then I'm sure you have a lot of stuff to say that people can take away from. All right. All
Right.
right.
Let's do it.
As an investor, an entrepreneur, speaker, in women's health and women's rights activist, in the last 10 years, you sold two businesses that equated to around 1.5 billion for the sale of the businesses. And the first was Slate Pharmaceuticals, and then the one that I knew because that's how we got introed is Sprout Pharmaceuticals, which had the first ever FDA approved drug for low sexual desire in women. The short way to say it, which is absolutely wrong, as I've learned when we met, is female Viagra, which is absolutely, wrong. But you can elaborate a little bit of that. But I remember the drug being a drug that adjusted and helped you mentally,
Yeah.
for a lot of things, and it wasn't I guess so. You know what? I shouldn't say this. Tell me
Well,
exactly the best
we're
way to
not
say it.
blood flow. We don't happen to be blood flow, right? It's not a mechanical issue. It's a brain issue for women to turn on. So Addie works in the brain on, we're really animalistic when we have sex, men and women alike. And what we do is we basically shut down all the open tabs in our brain. At least that's how I describe it, so that we quiet everything to like really enjoy. And for a huge percentage of women, something goes off balance and they can't quiet the brain. So they're lying in bed and they're doing their to-do list. They're thinking
Yeah.
about everything but having sex,
Right.
and they want to think about it again, and they want to like respond, when their partner smacks them on the butt. So that's really how the drug works, is on the brain.
Got it. Got it. And I know that you sold it to the company, and you sold it, and that was part of the overall sales. And I know you sold it for a huge amount of money. And after that, you successfully got it back. and
I
now
did.
you're reintroducing it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's I mean, you obviously can talk about negotiations right now with people. So
Contracts.
contracts, negotiations, and through your organization, the Pink Ceiling, Pinkubator, you invest and mentor other women and help them achieve the same success as you have. And you have been featured in Fast Company, Vanity Fair, Inc., Fortune, Vogue, WWD, and many others. And your products in the Pink Ceiling right now put power back in women's hands, like a flushable pregnancy test and a disc that detects date rape drugs in a drink with a droplet of water. So those are obviously very impressive, and I want people to really learn from you right now. But I'm going to also talk about a little bit else, which is the statistics out here about female entrepreneurship. According to National Association of Women Business Owners, there are a total of 12.3 million women-owned businesses in the United States. Now, that's impressive if you really think about it. I think there's 29 million small businesses, and 12.3 adding up for women. That's actually impressive. Obviously, there's room for more, but according to Inc., 114% more women entrepreneurs exist today than 20 years ago. And according to Forbes, private tech companies led by women achieve 35% more ROI. All right? So,
that's right.
So, you know, I call myself one of the biggest feminists in the world. You know, obviously, you know my family, and I'm surrounded by all women. I don't even have a dog around me. So
his mom is a character. I love his mom.
Yeah. So two feminists here talking. Let me get into some questions here, because I'd like to write down my questions beforehand, because talking to somebody like you, I'll go off on a tangent and then just start going all over the place. So because you're a really respected and powerful businesswoman, where do you think women are lacking when they get to the negotiation table? Because I'll just tell you something Barbara said to me, and I've learned so much from Barbara and Lori. Barbara said to me, women, she said, and this is just coming from another woman, she said, we like to fill the dead air. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, when we're at a table negotiating and something's not being said or there is quiet, we like to fill the dead air. And she said, I tend to do different. She said, I know when my son or my husband, when they're in trouble, I know I just look at them for a little while and let them fill the dead air.
That's
because
great.
Women have a way to cut through you, just look at you, and then the guy goes, what's up?
I love it.
That's a little tip that Barbara said.
That's good.
What are tips that you can give?
Look, I think that's actually not a bad tip. I'm really comfortable with silence. Like, I'm thinking about this time, you know, when I sold my last business, when Daymond and I got to know each other, and it was a big exit, it was $1 billion, but you know, that was not the first offer I got. So I can remember, like, they came to town, we had this formal meeting, the suitor for the company, and they made an offer for 200 million was the first offer. Right. And we were sitting around the table, and they were very proud of this offer and said, hey, you know, you and your team, just think about it. They walked out of the room. I looked at all of my team and I said, they're going to walk back in the room in 5 minutes. You're going to stand up and walk out. And we're like, what? You know, because it's flattering. It was a flattering offer to buy the company. They walked back in. I said, thank you so much. We're so flattered by the offer. We're going to go it alone. And I looked at my team. Everybody got up and walked out of the room. And I think that was a little bit of the silent treatment, right? We're just making a show. And I had a big binder I had printed of all of the press and everything else about us. And it was so funny because a woman I worked with was like pointing at this binder. She's like, the binder. And I'm like, leave it. Because I knew if I left it, they would call me back. And sure enough, right? They had a reason. They called me like right after, even though I had sort of dissed them and said, oh, we have your binder. I said, you just keep it. But, you know, there's like a negotiation tactic of this, you know, being comfortable in discomfort. And I think that if you look at different even sales techniques for people who are students of that, who are watching this, you know, there's a relationship-based sell, and then there's a challenger model. And I think that, you know, when I work with female founders, I'm really focusing on more of the challenger model so that you do become comfortable or go to your Zen place in those moments of discomfort, because that's going to pay you back in spades. You gotta have some moxie.
Yeah, you know that, but that's, listen, you know, me not being in that space, you know, $200 million sounds like a really nice payday, right?
I
So
was very polite.
what was the 200 million though? And you know, but I don't want people to sit there and go, oh wow, she just turned out 200 million, but you may have had 200 million invested into it. I
Yeah.
don't know, right?
Well, it wasn't a fair price. I mean,
Right.
I knew my worth in that moment. I knew exactly what the value of this should be. It should have ended in a B. It did ultimately end in a B because I wasn't going to settle for less. You know, if I think about just other tips, I think one of the things that we forget, you know, when you're building a company and you really need the check, and you get into the room, you forget that you're choosing to. Right? We're so dependent. And actually, you're making a very calculated decision on an investor to come in who you are now in a partnership with, a company that's going to acquire your business. And I think that, you know, many times for women, and at least for me, when I would get into the room pitching a product that was for women, like, let's be honest, by all the numbers, like the people sitting across the table, you know, didn't look like me. They don't look like you often, Daymond, right? I'm looking at a bunch of white guys in you know, I'm looking at a bunch of Mr. Wonderfuls. And, and they would often say, it's a niche market. And I think a tip for everybody in that regard, and a fair ask, is when you walk into the room, you should ask for somebody to be in the room like with experience in that area. So I would say like, hey, I need you to bring women into the room who would understand the product. And I, you know, same thing with me. If somebody's pitching me a golf, you know, technology, I don't golf. Very fair ask for them to say, hey, do you know any golfers? Please be sure that they're in the room. So if you're underrepresented, ask for somebody who represents you to be in the room. You deserve to ask.
On the flip side of that, and maybe that's great in medicine, but when I was pitching, it depends, because there was nobody in the room. They would always bring the kid out of the mail room and the black kid out of the mail room and say, so tell me about this business. And I you know, I guess on one side, the kid, the African American or the white kid who loved hip hop would say, yeah, I see it on these videos and it's cool.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to bring somebody in the room at that time who knew the numbers as well and could put the value on it. Because again, think about it, if there was so many people they knew in that room, then you and I wouldn't have the opportunity as well, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we got to think about, how do we do that? Now, let me ask you something. How do you go back, and after this thing, when they bought the product, they shelved it? Did they try to launch it? So they shelved it.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I couldn't have written this movie. It just played out in such an incredible way. You know, the deal was done. It takes a while for a deal to close. It closed, and 7 days later, they had a huge sort of business catastrophe to their core business. Ultimately, they ended up getting rid of the CEO who'd bought it. So their house was burned into the ground. And this was the last thing in. And whether or not, you know, their intention at the beginning was to launch it, their business dynamic changed. And all of a sudden, this product that we had worked so hard, you know, there are 26 drugs for men and not a single one until we crossed this finish line for women. So this was really a big deal for me. Finally, women had an option of their own, and then they couldn't get it. And you know how this goes. Like, this is your baby. So I'm sitting on the, like, you know, side of the room, like rocking. And the intention when they bought us was that I would stay in all of my team, and 3 months later we're gone. So there's not $1 billion happy ending, but you know, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And when I was sitting there crying it out because I was sad that my baby wasn't launched, I thought, well, the hell with that. I'm going to go and get it back. And they had a new CEO. I sat down with him 2 weeks into the job and I said, well, you're doing nothing with it, so give it back. And he laughed. He's like, we just paid you $1 billion for this. But like transactions go, and this is you know, a good tip for everybody out there, you know, the way you can sell your baby is an upfront payment, and then you participate, and Daymond talks about this all the time, you know, the win-win, if you will, of negotiation. So there's royalties or there's milestone payments, and you still got sort of skin in the game to help them be successful. So I had all this additional money coming to my shareholder group, and that gave me leverage. And ultimately, I said, you're in breach of contract. You're not doing the things you promised me you would do. It's hurting our downstream payments. And in exchange for dropping my pursuit of them, they gave it back. So can you believe it? We sold it for $1 billion. We got it back for nothing. We kept the $1 billion. And now I invested in women.
Absolutely, man. You know, it sounds like something Mark Cuban always said. Mark Cuban says, you know, because everything's a bubble. You know, we all know we're going through bubbles here and there, right? Mark Cuban goes, there's got to be somebody lucky. I'm the luckiest man in the world. I sold in a bubble. They never use it, and I kept the money, and then it went away. Not that yours went away. You get to reuse it. Yeah. So really, opportunity presents itself. And I think somebody on here said something even better. They said God was in the room. Which,
there you go.
God was definitely in the room for you.
For sure. I mean, it's been, and then here's the story of entrepreneurship, right? I get it back. This has been a long time in the making. I also love that Daymond always says, you know what, no success story is overnight. No success story is overnight. And this beginning of this year, finally I get to do radio ads. So we're turning on, like, a lot of people probably don't even know it's an option yet. So finally I'm here, 10 years in the making. Like, it starts playing on Howard Stern and I'm in my car weeping like a baby. Finally my radio ad is on, and then COVID hits. And, you know, you start going, all right, well, you know, you got to take cash consideration in the business. I don't yet have a proof sort of how brand awareness is paying me back. I don't know conversions and everything else. And so you pull back on it a little bit, but such is the ride.
Isn't it with COVID out there? Wouldn't you think that women would want to be mentally in a better place, because of course people are home, they're having conflict, or whatever the case is, and if a woman is not mentally okay, you know, probably, like, if anybody's not mentally okay, you know, the conflicts and or the depression or things like that are going to increase.
No, I love that you said that. It's absolutely true. Our Facebook, our online is exploding. And I do think, you know, if something, we're all with our partners right now locked up behind closed doors. And if something was going wrong in this area already, and you had practiced like avoidance, you know, you go to bed early, or you do all of these things, which is really what you hear from women who are dealing with this, all of a sudden, like, it's front and center and the stress is tenfold. And look, there's a lot of health benefit to having sex. Dr. Oz is prescribing it to everybody. You know, he's actually saying, have regular sex. That's actually a piece of, if we talk about wellness, we talk about mental wellness, we talk about physical wellness, sexual wellness is the third piece of that equation. So yeah, we've actually seen an explosion in our online traffic, which is awesome, because our business is sort of two parts, right? There's a part of calling on physicians, and then there's an online telemedicine part where, you know, women can connect with the doctor in their state from the comfort of their home. And so that's just gone through the roof.
So let's talk about telemedicine, because I've heard people talking about telemedicine. I can be very honest, I didn't really know much about what telemedicine is, even though my wife's in the next room using telemedicine. I just thought that, and a lot of my doctors send me stuff saying, hey, if you want an appointment, just no longer need to come in the office. And this was before COVID, right? Save a lot of time. But just talk to me a little bit and educate our you know, our viewers right now about telemedicine. And then, of course, I didn't even announce or Sprout. I didn't even tell them where they can get Sprout or anything like that. There's
Addy. Yeah, just addy.com. You know, I'll tell you Addy, and Addy spelled
Addy.com?
Addy.com or ADDYI.com.
ADDYI.com. Okay, because I know a lot of people here think that when I interview people that I have vested interest. I have no vested interest in it. That's why I didn't know where addy.com is. I'm not a woman. I don't use it. And my wife takes care of me perfectly. That's why we have a 3-year-old. So, but addy.com.
That's good.
All right.
That is good. Okay.
But talk about telehealth.
So 1 in 7 couples aren't as lucky as you. Just so you know, those are the stats, which are staggering. Telemedicine. For everybody watching, one, if you're an investor, this is a great place to look because telemedicine is the future of medicine. And I'm happy that as I was looking at trends when I got the product back, you know, one of the fun pieces of having, or if there was a pink lining, if you will, to it not going the way that I planned, I had a couple years to sit there and imagine how I would do it differently. Well, what's come into play is telemedicine. What does that mean? Quite literally, it's doing this with your physician, you know, literally like a FaceTime, it's a phone call, and sometimes it's actually purely online in a digital interaction with a healthcare professional licensed in your state. And you can imagine, like, the average it takes to get into your primary care doctor in the US is 29 days. And we all know what that experience is like.
Yeah.
You go in, you're like sitting there with the clipboard and like everyone's coffee near you. And that's not how any of us consume anymore. And so for, you know, conditions where you don't need a physical exam, it's ideal. It's less expensive. It's more time efficient. And I think it matches like the modern lifestyle. So for Addie, for example, I don't have a relationship with these telemedicine companies. They're independent of us. But I went to a bunch of them when I got the product back and I said, listen, here's my hunch. Women would rather bring this up over the phone with a physician than have an embarrassing conversation face to face and have the medicine shipped to their doorstep like Amazon, as opposed to be standing in Target and them saying like, you know, Cindy, your Addie's ready. Come. So I said, I'm willing to direct them to you if your clinicians are educated about the condition and everything else. And it's gone gangbusters. And I think what I love about telemedicine is, especially for things that are stigmatized, mental health as an example, if people won't go out and have the interaction with a therapist or something else or bring it up to their doctor, just know that you can actually do that today from the privacy of your home and get help on any of these things that you're struggling with personally.
I think that's very important, and I don't want to get off topic, but I've seen a lot of studies where they were just talking about kids at first. They were talking about young girls when they first start to, you know, have their period. They said that they're 10 times more likely to ask a stranger on social media what to do than to talk to their family. And I think that adults too, if you think about it now, if we're all confined at home and we're not getting a lot of social interaction with people, to be one-on-one with people, if we're suffering mentally from something, we may not want to tell our significant other or people at home. But if you're saying now that what you should think about doing is reaching out to people who are professionals in this matter, because a lot of people, there's going to be, due to this, what's going on, there's going to be a lot of suicides. There's going to be a lot of things, people dealing with hard times. People not knowing if they're going to have a home tomorrow or whatever the case is. I think that people should think about reaching out to others who they may not know, because that person not coming in with a judgment filter. You don't have to worry about that person saying, you know, next Thanksgiving, hey, Tom called me crying. You know what I mean? So I do think that brings up a very valid point. Now, I know that you have limited time. I want to ask you about something else. You've really been advocate for empowering other women. And I remember I was in LA one time and you said, come by, I'm having this women's dinner, a women get together. And I was like, all right, it's a women's get together. And you said, just stop by.
And Daymond.
I stopped by and there were like massively famous women there. And I remember, I forgot, it was one famous woman. She's like, oh, really good to see you. I don't know, it wasn't Paris Hilton or somebody, but who was hosting that one?
Rumor Willis? Maybe Paris Hilton was there, Nikki was there, Nikki Hilton,
But somebody said, really good to meet you, and they were like, oh, it was Arquette.
Oh, yes, Rosanna, yes.
She was like, I really like you, I've been dying to meet you, but this is for all women, I get the hell out of here. And
that sounds about right.
Yeah, it was great. I got it, you know. So, but tell me a little bit of what you're doing, because I'm seeing you and I'm seeing a lot of people in the big circles of Hollywood, you know, trying to work with you so you can give them influence to share their influence with other women and bring them up. Yeah,
look, I have a campaign called Women on Top. I don't have my sweater on today, but all of us wear sweaters. They say Women on Top. And it's really about, how do I go and round up these incredible women that you're mentioning, you know, A-list celebrity to incredible women that run businesses, you know, women in nonprofits, etc., and mobilize them to help put other women on top. There's no financial game in it for me. It's about paying it forward. And I think you get this. When I got to this exit, I've done better than anyone would have ever guessed including my family, I think, and me too. And what I realized coming out of that is I needed to reach my hand back and get other women there faster than I got there myself. And I really care about disruption in women's health. This is going to shock you. 4% of all dollars go to research in women's health. Prostate cancer gets 2% goes to prostate cancer alone. That's a huge pipeline crisis. And so, my story, I think people recognize that I took on the government for women's sexual pleasure and won. That was the road less traveled for sure. But I believe it, and I stand on the data and the science, and the data out there today around women and the percentage of funding they get is horrible. And so, here's an opportunity to get incredible women with incredible megaphones to just personally invest in changing it. So that's what the Women on Top campaign is all about. And there's crazy Eva Longoria had her sweater on before we were all locked down, and she was walking out of lunch at the Ivy or something. And it's great because the paparazzi were just like, "Ooh, Eva, I love the sweater." And I went through TSA at LAX, and I was wearing it. It does say Women on Top, and the woman on the other side of it was watching me walk through, and she said, "Girl, that can mean two things." And I said, "I know." So, let me tell you what I do. It was fun.
That's great. Well, I really thank you for the talk. I just found that I'm successful. I believe, and like I said, I'm a feminist because I have so many women around me. But and I want to say it to all the men now listening. I think even if you want to do it in a selfish way, let's say selfish, be very selfish about it. You get a different way of thinking when you have somebody who is not like you, and that's where innovation comes in, right? So,
totally.
Let's say if I was in the Army, let's say, listen, the United States Army, who they hire to consult them? They don't hire other people that was in the United States Army. They hire people who were in the Russian Army to consult them, because you want to know how the other person thinks, and that's how you come up with innovation. And you can never win a game if half your team is on the bench, right? And that's the way I think about it when I think about having women in being my advisors or mentors. I mean, listen, believe it or not, don't ever tell her. Barbara's one of my mentors, because she just is so raw with it and so creative. And I always talk about my mother, and I love obviously learning from you as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody got to know who you were and who you are, and that they need to follow you and learn from you, because there are so many lessons that they can learn, from negotiation to investing to everything else. So thank you so much for taking the time with me.
Thanks for having me, Daymond. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
All right, good seeing you too. You look
well.
Look beautiful and healthy. All right.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Right. You got
Keep
it.
Minka going.
I will.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
There you go. That was Cindy. All right, listen. Hey, Shark Ginger, I'm going to shout a couple of you out. Listen, make sure you follow Cindy, please. Cindy Pink, CEO. She's absolutely amazing, and I want to always bring these type of people to you that you wouldn't have normally heard of, and then 10 years from now, when they're the president or they are somebody massively, massively influential, that they've been doing it already for 20 years, then you go, holy crap. I don't want you to go, holy crap. I want you to go, I've already learned from those people as well, the same way that I learned from them. What's up, Maury? Maury on my team has a great relationship with Cindy. He actually, he's kind of like the glue with meeting people. And I'm going to shout out people here right now. Please make sure that you put your name in and where you're from, or, and let me I'm going to shout you out right now really quick. The Curvy Stylist, how you doing? I know you. That is Cherie. Let me see. Yes. Let me see who else is on here. Patricia Bolton. Jenny from the Chopping Block. All right. Adia from Brooklyn. Put your name in too when you're away from. Osea Keelan from Texas. Louise, Tony What's up, Danny from Miami? That's my man. So anybody saw this shot that I have on my balcony? Danny took that shot on my balcony when I was joking around. Well, I wasn't joking around. I do love Cracker Barrel delivery, but Danny took that shot for me. Thank you. Who else is on here? Hello, Damon. I am Farouz from Tehran. Tehran, what's up? Vicky from San Diego is here. Krishna from India. Oh, have you seen the movie Extraction? I had to look at the movie 3 times. For all of you guys and girls who are action junkies, the movie Extraction is absolutely incredible. The way the director shot it, he shot it from an angle. I think he was an action star or something like that, or a video game director, something like that. But anyway, he shot it. It is crazy. Let me see. Mustafa from Cameroon. I see you. What's going on? Yeah, Miss A, then something like that. Loves Extraction. All right, cool. All right, everybody, listen, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. And remember, every single Monday, I have Power Shift Your Week at 1 o'clock. Every single Tuesday, I have Power Talks. And I'm going to always do 2 interviews with amazing people. I put up already who you guys want to see. And believe it or not, Peppa Pig, you want to see an interview with Peppa Pig more than anybody else. But I definitely will also try to get some of the other ones on there that you want to see, such as Stoop President from Barstool, Stool Presidente, and Cuban, and all these other people. All right, love all you. Be careful. Remember, you know, stay safe. I don't care if the states are opening up. You know, make sure you are, I know you want to be out there with people just like I do. Just be very, very careful. Don't bring it home to your loved ones, and be good.